All right, well, let's give it a try. I got a song to start things off.
Dumb see through free is making YouTube a new scene. Searching for the truth, shutting out the noise. Looking for ideas in a simple, ordinary life. Helping people is a mission, a passion, a privilege. Searching for the truth, shutting out the noise. Cases going cold, no new leads, no new ideas. Families needing closure, facts and justice. Searching for truth, shutting out the noise. Helping people is a mission, a passion, a privilege. Chatting with the peeps when the YouTube is going live. Searching for the truth, shutting out the noise.
Playing with those programs to make your own songs is pretty addicting. Looks like the picture quality is pretty bad and glare in my glasses, but that's okay. I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint. I just wanted to go over a little bit about Nancy Guthrie. We're always talking about Perp Guy, and we're talking about everybody else involved in the case. So I wanted to do a little bit of research and see who was Nancy Guthrie. Since her family doesn't really talk about her much, as far as what was her life like, we can't get any of her friends to talk. I wanted to do a little deep dive and see what I could find. I don't know if you can see the PowerPoint. Like I said, this is my test run because I'm just figuring all this stuff out. And from the beginning, but then it goes up big, but that's okay. Where's Nancy Guthrie? So she was born 1942 in Kentucky. Looks like she moved to Tucson in the 70s, but she did with her husband and the 3 kids. She married Charles. He passed away in 1988. Savannah's 54. Cameron is 61. And Annie is 56. If I could find how to... Anyway, so I wanted to find out where she grew up and everything like that. And I found out that she grew up in Kentucky, in a small little suburb. She attended an all-girls elementary and high school, and then she went to the University of Kentucky. She worked with the student-run newspaper. She covered Greek life. And she actually, I didn't know this, that she met Charles at a basketball game on a blind date at the University of Kentucky. So that was what I started with. I mean, I've got more, but I didn't want my face covered with the PowerPoint presentation since I don't know how it's going to look. But that was interesting. That was the first time I ever heard that she met her husband at the University of Kentucky, because I didn't know that she went to the University of Kentucky. So then they got married, and that was kind of not readily available of what year they got married. All I had was the years that the kids were born. Oh, let me see if I can pull this where I can see it. Excuse me. So let's see, when were the kids born? Oh, that's okay. It's no big deal. So they lived in Melbourne, Australia, because Charles had a job there with his mining work. They were Baptists, and they moved back to Arizona in 1974 when Savannah was 2 years old. So this is what I found interesting, was about her work. Oh, sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. We'll get this. I don't know what you guys can see and not see, but that's okay. I'll figure it out. So Nancy worked for the University of Arizona from 1990 to 2007. She initially worked in public relations, and she did that because she got reduced tuition for the kids. Very brilliant woman, resourceful. So we know that about Nancy: hard worker, resilient, resourceful, always worried about her kids and how she was going to get by with them. They say that she initially served as a spokesperson for the university's medical center, where she managed communications and public relations. And then later sorry about that, she became the vice president of the university advancement, where she coordinated program initiatives to enhance the university's engagement with the community. So, just a little bit of that, showing you how involved Nancy was, not just with her kids, but also with the community. I think that we're seeing at least a semi picture of her being a really good person. And I wanted to explain why the Nancy Guthrie case has got me so intrigued. My mom's 92 years old, and recently I'd lived with her for 2 years as her Alzheimer's started to advance, to the point where mom needed a facility to be safe because she was wandering, and even 24-hour caregivers at the home wasn't going to work. I also have a master's degree in nursing with a focus on adult population. Geriatrics is my specialty, and I love my elderly patients. It's just a passion for me. I also have a certification in education in nursing, so I love to teach. And hopefully, once I get used to this whole YouTube live streaming, recording videos things, I'd like to do some educational things too. So many things go on in your mind when you start something like this. You don't know what direction to go into. And I was hoping that people would help guide me through and give me suggestions. I think that that would be a great thing. So, Nancy Guthrie is an 84-year-old woman who has a heart condition, a pacemaker, limited mobility. None of us can even fathom what that night was for her. And people who don't understand why we're so passionate about it, they haven't done the research. They haven't watched all the videos that we've watched. They haven't experienced the chats that we've experienced, speaking amongst ourselves, and why we're so passionate about Nancy Guthrie's case. And that's why I'm doing this. I don't know about some of you. I know when I'm in the chats, I get frustrated. So I super chat because I want my opinion to be expressed, or I call in, but then I chicken out because, you get nervous calling into somebody else's show and you don't want to talk too much and you don't want to be burdensome. So I don't really get to express how I feel. How I feel is I feel horrible that this happened to an 84-year-old woman in a home that she lived in for 50 years, that she felt safe enough to keep her doors unlocked and her windows open, maybe in the summertime. My husband's from Oregon, and when we first got married 36 years ago, he'd keep the doors unlocked and the windows open. And me, being a good old New York girl, I said to him, "Are you crazy? There's crazy people out there." So he kept everything unlocked, and when he went to bed, I locked everything up. So I understand why Nancy felt so safe at that time in that house, because she'd lived there for 50 years. I mean, most people haven't even been alive for that long, and she's lived in that house that long. Hi, Justin Max. Oh, hi, Michelle. Hi, Shivy. Thanks for joining me. It's going to be brief. I just wanted to do a little expose or what limited information I could find about Nancy Guthrie. because that's where my heart is who is Nancy? And that's why I get so angry at the friends. All I want them to tell me is Nancy was a great woman. We had so much fun playing mahjong. She had such deep faith. She helped the homeless. She fed the homeless. Tell me something. I'm so invested in this case. I honestly don't even care if they find the perp. That's a horrible thing to say. I want them to find Nancy's body. I want them to bring her back to Tucson so she can lay and rest with her husband. That's the gracious thing to do. That's the honorable thing to do. But I doubt these monsters are even going to care about that. I'm getting angry, sorry. Nancy deserves that. And I really don't give two flips if her kids feel this way, if her kids even care. They've got to care. That's their mother. We care. I care. You guys care. That's what's important. So, going back to some of the stuff that I looked at, this college thing is amazing. Um, she organized a center stage program which brought musicians to perform monthly for hospital staff, patients, visitors, enrich the cultural environment of the medical center. She loved music. She loved people being entertained. And again, it really emphasizes her love for community. This is close to my heart that she did a med camp, a program that introduced high school students to careers in the medical field, which demonstrated her commitment to education and community involvement. Even though Nancy and I were at opposite ends of the political spectrum, I think she and I would have got along really well. She had a heart for children and for student learning, which that's what I used to call my nursing students when I taught clinicals. They were my nurslings. I didn't just want to teach them the science of nursing. I wanted to teach them how to care for people, especially the elderly, people who are vulnerable. Um, how many times did they ask me, why is that old guy so mean? So I'd go in with them and I'd have a conversation and I'd say, so what's going on, John? Goddamn kids in here don't know what the hell they're doing. Oh, don't worry about it, John. You got to let these kids learn. Hey, what did you used to do for a living? And they would tell me. The elderly want respect. I know a lot of people are saying, why didn't Nancy go in a home? Why didn't her kids supervise her more? Why this? Why that? You know what? Nancy was an 84-year-old woman. She was a grown ass woman. And I doubt she was about to let anybody tell her what she could and couldn't do. Just like some of my patients. So I have to look at them as, yes, they're in a vulnerable state. Half the times, they're naked or they're in a hospital gown. They've never been in this situation before. Or they've been in this situation every month for the last 2 years because they've got some type of condition that brings them to the hospital constantly. But what I tell my students is that you've got to have respect. You have to have compassion. And you have to meet somebody right where they are. They're vulnerable. They're scared. They're embarrassed. Nancy must have been scared that night, but not from a nurse, hopefully. Not from a caretaker. We can only pray. But from some monster who broke into her house. And we don't know what they did to her. We don't know what she went through. I wanted to celebrate her life in this video and talk about what a wonderful person Nancy must have been. That when her husband died, she went to work, boots on the ground, Nancy, in a college to make sure her children could afford a good education. My hat's off to Nancy. My next live probably be a heck of a lot better than this one, but I want to thank you all for joining me. And let's say a prayer for Nancy, that she gets found and she gets brought home, and that she and Charles may rest together in peace. Thank you all for joining. See you live. Good night. Now I have to figure out how to turn it off.